According to the Buddhist faith, every being of this world, whether animal, human or God, is subject to an endless and painful cycle of life. This cycle of suffering, of birth, sickness, old age, death and rebirth is called samsara. According to the Buddhist faith, a small group was able to break out of this tortuous cycle and enter into definitive death, the parinirvana. Through profound meditation, these chosen few have attained insight into the underlying connection between all things and have discovered the true causes of the perpetually recurring suffering. They call themselves Buddha, the Enlightened One. The legendary life and the teachings of the seventh and so far last Buddha Gautama, about 2,500 years ago, are the source of the world religion of Buddhism. Before a being in its last existence becomes a Buddha, it first becomes capable of being enlightened. Solely because of its deep compassion for everything existing, it refuses to enter nirvana. This so-called bodhisattva enjoys the highest respect in later Buddhism. Fourth of seven heavens of divine beings, the Tushita heaven, lived the bodhisattva Shvetaketu. He was granted the possibility of descending to earth one last time in order to attain enlightenment and pass completely into nirvana. As he was sitting there in sweet repose, he saw the signs indicating to him that the time of his descent had come. Soon the Bodhisattva announced to the gods that in 12 years he would descend to earth in the land of the rose apple tree, that is, India, in the form of a white elephant with 6 tusks. In Kapilavastu, in the royal house of Shakya, the familial line of Gautama, it was Maya, the wife of King Shuddhodana, who possessed the excellent qualities and virtues necessary to become the mother of the chosen one. As the moon came into conjunction with the constellation Pushya, the most propitious constellation in the firmament, the Bodhisattva crowned his successor Maitreya and said, "After me, thus you, O noble man, will awake to full enlightenment." As the full moon stood in conjunction with the constellation Pushya and birth approached, Queen Maya with her entourage entered the most beautiful of the royal pleasure gardens in the grove of Lumbini. There a mighty plaksha tree cast its branches downward as though it sensed the majesty of the Bodhisattva. Maya reached out her right arm and grasped a small branch. Without causing his mother pain, the Bodhisattva emerged from her right side. It was Indra, lord of the gods, and the master of all creations, Brahma, who received the newborn upon a celestial silk robe and let hot and cold water fall over him. After his birth, peculiar things occurred. The newborn boy strode 7 steps to the west, and with each step a divine lotus blossomed under his feet. With confidence he spoke, "I am the first in the world. I am the greatest in the world. This is my last birth. I will prepare an end to the sufferings of being born, growing old, and dying." Maya and her son returned to the capital Kapilavastu, where the queen died 7 days later. The prince received the name Siddhartha, which means he who has attained his goal. At this time, a prophet with supernatural abilities named Asita lived on the slopes of the Himalayas. From miraculous signs, he recognized that at the court of King Shuddhodana, a mighty boy had been born. In order to see him, he flew with his nephew Naradatta to the royal palace. Catching sight of the boy, he recognized the 32 marks of a great man. Full of reverence and awe, he took the Bodhisattva in his arms and prophesied, He who bears these marks can go along only one of two paths. He can become a king and ruler of the world, a Chakravartin, or he can fulfill the path and become an enlightened one, a Buddha. He will set into motion the wheel of teaching that no one on earth has yet moved in the right way. When Prince Siddhartha was to be instructed in the knowledge of all arts and in the arts of weaponry, his teachers were amazed to see that he already had mastered these things. In order to demonstrate the extraordinary abilities of his son, King Shuddhodana let contests be announced, in which the prince emerged victorious over all Shakyas. On the day of the contest, it also came to pass that Siddhartha's cousin, Devadatta, overcome by envy and hatred, with a single stroke smote and killed a white elephant that was promised to the prince. This episode began the lifelong quarrel between Siddhartha and Devadatta. When the Bodhisattva saw the dead elephant, he grasped it by the trunk and hurled it over the 7 walls and gardens of the city, so that the growing stench of the decomposing beast would not disturb the people of Kapilavastu. In order to prevent the prophecy that the now 16-year-old Prince Siddhartha would withdraw from the world, King Shuddhodana resolved to marry off his son. Here he calculated, once Siddhartha had become acquainted with the pleasures of the senses, and even has conceived a child, he surely would not roam without a roof over his head. Siddhartha, who was aware of his previous lives, and knew that each of the bodhisattvas before him had married a woman and conceived a child, agreed. The daughter of Shakya Dandapani, Gopa, who is named Yashodhara in other sources, was the only woman among 84,000 candidates who possessed the excellent qualities required to marry the prince. She gave birth to a son, Rahula. Prince Siddhartha spent 29 years behind the palace walls without any contact with the outside world. He led a rich and carefree life. His father intentionally kept him from the injustices of life. Yet, while on 4 journeys, each one undertaken in the direction of a different cardinal point, those things finally befell the prince from which his father had tried to protect him. He encountered an old man, a sick man, a dead man, and a monk. The first 3 encounters opened his eyes to the sufferings of age, sickness, and death. These meetings, and that with the monk, who was completely at peace with himself, left a profound impression on the prince. These encounters led Siddhartha, whilst on a ride in the country, to his first meditation. During the hours he spent in contemplation in the shadow of a rose-apple tree, the shadow miraculously remained immovable above the prince, so that he was not disturbed in his meditation. When the gods noticed that the time had come for Siddhartha to roam without a roof over his head, they urged him to set off. But Shuddhodana, who refused his son permission, had him guarded by 84,000 Shakyas in the palace and at the city gates. The gods, under the leadership of Indra and Brahma, prepared his flight by causing the entire population of the city to fall into a profound sleep. The gods also sent a nightmarish vision to the prince, who seemed still unresolved about his journey. The prince believed himself to be atop a field of corpses, for his 84,000 wives had been transformed into revolting creatures. So Siddhartha decided to flee out of the city at night. The gods threw open the bolted gates and held the hooves of his horse Kantaka in their hands as he left, so that no sound of his withdrawal from the world could be perceived. As Prince Siddhartha, he took his leave from his favourite mount Kantaka and his faithful servant Chandaka before the gates of the city. He cast off his royal garments and cut his hair so that from then on, as the Bodhisattva Gautama, he might go forward towards his destiny and seek complete enlightenment, called Sambodhi.